final review and everything you need to know, not only about the Qwiizlab hub, but all other hubs in the same design format. Okay, now everybody likes different types of hubs, I get it. And sometimes the more money you spend, the better the hub system you get. And we all pick different types of hubs because we have different needs and requirements, right? But this is a hub where a lot of people are buying this style of hub. Now, Satachi, or however you pronounce them, makes it, and a few other weird, freaked out names of companies make these hubs. This is the only hub in this design, though, that is actually powered or capable of being powered. The other ones are not. So, you know the whole story, when you see something wrong, run. I'm telling you to run like hell, okay, from all those other designs like this. So this is the only one I'm going to recommend because it can be powered. And that's a very important thing because you only have so much milliamps worth of juice out of each port on the back of your computer. And none of them are adequate enough to run 2 internal drives and still run your other devices up front at the same time. Even if it's only 1 or 2 other devices, you're going to overstrain the system, okay? You'll also overstrain the system just even with your general SSD drive being put into this thing, okay? Because they generally draw 1 to 1.7 amps, okay? Now, when I did some testing yesterday, we noticed some instability issues with a 900 and some odd gig drive SSD. Well, I thought it only drew 1 amp. It was my bad. It actually turns out it draws 1.7. So I've done a little bit of rearranging with computers and drives and stuff since last night. And I actually stole the NVMe drive, which was actually my main C drive, out of my tower, but not before cloning it to another drive. Because I wanted one inside this. I needed to know, you know, is it really worth me spending the money I was about to spend on an NVMe? Would I get those speeds? What kind of speed can I expect? Because the NVMe drives, as you know, they are sickly fast compared to a regular SSD drive, right? So I had, of course, one sitting in my tower that's 3,300 megabit per second read, 3,000 write. Now, none of these drives, by the way, will ever get to those alleged speeds. They can come very close, but they won't ever get there. It's not possible, okay? So anyways, now I have an empty slot on my tower, so now I'm thinking I might go after that 7,000 megabit per second read-write drive I saw. Now that the port's free, I'm like, oh yeah, baby, now we're talking horsepower right off the motherboard too. Because in my PC it connects to the motherboard. Anyway, let's get on with this stuff though. So we have 2 drive bays in here. Okay, now we're going to blow up the pictures for you. So let's start here. So you can use a mechanical drive or an SSD in the one bay, which is the big sucker. And then of course you have your NVMe. Now of course they do show that this NVMe does not have a heatsink. You might want to also consider staying away from NVMe drives that do have heat sinks unless it's a perfectly flat one. The one I stuck in was an XPG drive. It's made by ADATA. And it's got one of those taller heat sinks on it with a couple of ripples on the fin. It's a design thing, right? It's a gamer thing. My lid just closes with just a slightest bit of a, you know, uprise. Just a little tiny, but enough that it's there. But the drive doesn't heat up anyways because we'll never achieve the speeds. So we're definitely going to be running the drive ice cold, so it won't matter. But at least I got one in there now, and it does run pretty good, and we're going to re-show you speed tests, especially if you missed that other thing. But anyway, you cannot exceed a 1 amp draw on the SSD here, okay? If you do, it will actually start to fail on the writes for sure, and it'll start to slug down a little bit on the reads really quickly, okay? So the 1.7 amp draw drive I had is actually sitting in my tower now. It's like a 960 gig drive or 980 gig drive. But I have all the amperage and juice I'll ever need inside my PC for that. But for inside of a hub, no. The 1.7 amp draw is too much, okay? 1 amp is adequate, and I don't know what my NVMe draws. it's not near as much, I'm sure, but even it's running stable. But even with a little bit of lack of amperage, okay, you are not going to slow down the drive realistically. It's going to still run fast, right? So it's definitely getting the power though. In my case, it is, okay, because I'm using an external power supply. I've got a 65-watt brick that I just put on this thing because I wanted to do some other testing because I've been using a, what is this thing, about a 20 watt or something? Yeah, 20 watt 3 amp brick from my iPad Air 4 is what I've been powering this hub with for the last couple of days. Now, regardless of the wattage, we definitely have amperage, right? And we have voltage, and those are the two main key components here. Besides, we're not charging the darn hub, we're powering it. So I thought, let's put on my big 65-watt brick and see how well that does. And it's a little over 3 amps, so maybe we'll get an increase in speed, maybe we won't. So then we'll also know if we are actually getting the proper amperage too, which is kind of where I'm thinking that 3 amps, 3 to 4 amps I think is about, 4 amps tops is about the magic trick for this thing. And then you can run a lot of stuff at once and not worry about it. However, all of these other hubs in this design are not powered or capable of being powered. You need to run away from those things. They will cook your Mac. And we've heard stories already on YouTube from many channels that after a while, for some reason, the USB port got cooked. And I did a video about this, and I told you guys flat out the way it goes. That every time you use an unpowered hub, eventually, your computer is going to give up, and you're going to cook the ports. I guarantee it, okay? So, there's not enough amperage coming out of even any one single port to give you enough power to run internal drives plus run other crap off the front. It just doesn't happen, okay? So, you need a powered hub. This is the only one I've found on Amazon that is capable of being powered, okay? Whether it's powered from your computer or independently. Now, Qwiizlab does recommend that you power it with their cable from your computer. Don't do it, okay? And I'm not kidding you. If you still want to blow up your ports, go right ahead, use their cable. When you go to power a hub, previous to powering a hub, okay, a non-powered hub, for example, which this could be used as a non-powered too, your power, your voltage and your amperage is coming from this port into here, into your hub, okay? So your hub is drawing 5 volts and it's drawing all that amperage, okay, which is, they're usually around 900-ish, okay, for milliamps, not quite an amp. And if you listen to what I'm saying, not quite an amp, the SSD drive draws an amp. There's not enough. And you still want to try and run stuff off the front of this? You have no power. You're already surging down the system. It doesn't mean your devices can't mount and can't do anything, but they will run hot, for one. They're going to oversurge the system. And there is no protection circuit to stop your ports from blowing, whether it's a Mac or a PC. You're going to cook stuff. So, they suggest use our cable to give you power to the hub. So there's no data going into this power connection. This is straight power only. So when you plug into here, you are taking 5 volts and X amount of milliamps and supplying the hub. Well, when you do this to power a hub, any amperage that it was pulling from here before, it ain't doing it anymore. It's only taking the data. That's it. It's only there to access data. The voltage is not required. The amperage is no longer required. Okay? It's all being fed into the hub direct this way to supply power to everything. So, you do not do this stupid stunt because it's no better than just having this cable here already. You're not doubling your efforts. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So, you need an external charger. Now, you can use any 3 amp USB as long as it's only one single port on that USB charger, because otherwise the power gets subdivided on most of these unless otherwise specified in specs. Okay? But generally what happens here is it does get subdivided for amperage. So I'm using a Type-C iPad Air 4 charger. It has 3 amps of power, 20 watts of supply. Yep, it can supply this hub just fine. Okay, I've since switched it out. I've got my 65 watt brick on here, which is a third party thing, putting out approximately the same amperage. It's like 3 point something amps, so it's actually a little bit hinge more. And I got 65 watts. So that's going to be a little bit more stabler, I think. I'm still going to try and find a 4 amp charger because I want to supply a little bit more amperage. Because I want to see if more amperage is going to actually help things out any more to supply even more power. Because I am running 2 drives in here, plus whatever I do decide to hook up to the front when I do. Now I also have 2 hubs on my computer also that are both powered. But anyways, so you'll see that, you know, they recommend doing this and you don't. This is what you get in the box. Okay, so this is the cable you throw in the garbage or use it for something else, and this is the cable you need to connect to the computer with. You got these little pads here. They're to keep pressure down on the drive so the drive can't move, because you can't lock down the SSD or the HDD drive that you put in there because there are no locks. So the only way to keep pressure down and stop it from flopping around is to use one of those pads. And I suggest using it near the back end of the drive where it flops. You get 6 screws. You'll only need 4 to attach the back cover with. The other 2 are spares, screwdriver, etc. Okay, this is what you get for 120 bucks Canadian. Okay, plus your shipping and import fees is $22.66. Now, this hub is worth every penny. If this is the design format you're after for a hub, worth every penny. Okay. Now, we did say we cannot achieve the speeds. Okay, so we're going to do some testing. Every time you fire up Blackmagic, which is the one all of us Mac users pretty much love because it's great, it defaults to the internal hard drive on your Mac first. Even though it's not technically supposed to do this, it does anyway. So, we've got 2730 megabits, by the way, not megabytes, megabits per second write. And we have 2904.6 megabits per second read. Now that's juicy, and we don't even have 1x anywhere. So in ProRes, Cinema, 10-bit, everything's perfect. Internal drive usage, that's the way you go. Okay? I'm doing a separate video talking about external storage because I'm about to slam a few people for that one. But that'll be another video. So if you want to hear about all that stuff, stay tuned. Now that's under 5 gigabyte, okay, not gigabit, but big gigabyte stress test. Okay? So this is the hardest test we can put these drives through with this program. So we're going to go in and we're going to check out our NVMe drive. Now this thing was rated for 3300 read, 3000 write. And in my PC, it was pretty close to those numbers when I crystal tested it. And I've used other test programs as well, and it's pretty accurate. So there you go. Crystal is actually a program you can use. Working fine in the tower. Now, what are we going to expect to see inside of a dock? Because remember, this is not a Thunderbolt 4 dock, okay, or USB 4. This is not Thunderbolt. This is USB-C 3, okay, or 3.1. So we're not going to get NVMe rocket speeds. But what are we going to get? That's a good question. And will it be stable? Now, if you don't power this dock, it's not going to be stable. If you use too high of an amperage draw, so anything over 1 amp draw on a drive, it also, we found out, is not stable. Okay, so we're going to let this run a couple of tests, okay, because we're looking for the stability. When I ran my 960 or 980 drive last night for you guys, it turned out that was actually a 1.7 amp draw drive, so I was wrong, so that was my bad. And that's why we saw the instability. And I've been kind of trying to figure this out for a few days, because I also have a 500 gig that's also a 1.7, and I knew it was 1.7. And so then I got to digging around, and I got another drive that's SSD that's 480, and it turns out it is actually a 1 amp draw, and it stays stable. Okay, so this is all stability. So we're not getting anywhere near these rocket speeds. So is it really worth investing in a super high-powered NVMe drive? No, because you're not going to see these speeds inside this dock. But even at a rating drive of 3000 megabit per second, I'll tell you where the advantage comes in. These are still really excellent speeds, even though we got a few little issues down here, okay, with the X's. The drive is going to run really cold, which is what you want anyways. You don't want drives to run hot, because when they run hot, they run slower, right? So, and even though this is no moving parts, it still does the same thing. You get it hot, it's going to run sluggier. All right, so let's go test out our 1 amp draw drive. And this is a 480 gig. And there's nothing even on this drive either, okay? And it really doesn't matter. You just have to have free space on the drive. Now, we're going to let this run for a couple of rounds because we're checking for stability. We're supplying 3 amps worth of juice to the hub from the wall socket into that power port. And like I said, we're not getting power anymore from the computer. It's all coming from the hub to power all of our devices now off that one port. So we're just getting data line and that's it. So even this drive, it's rated for about 5 and change read and pretty close to that on the write speed. We're getting pretty good speeds though. I mean, for an SSD being in a hub, that's pretty respectable. Now it will run slightly faster if it's direct into a computer, right? So that's kind of a given because the bus inside your computer is always going to be faster than a USB bus, okay? So that's still pretty respectable, and we have rock solid, stable speeds, okay? And we're not overdrawing power from anything, so we're not seeing any slowdowns here. It's doing fantastic, okay? So that's actually really good. Now, like I said, this is the only hub that I can find anywhere on Amazon, and there's a lot of hub choices. I mean, even Satachi has them. Hagbis was another one people had recommended. But even Hagbis, even though it has these 2 ports back here, you can't power the hub. It's not designed for power in the hub. You know, it's like, why? Like, what is with these companies? Are they that, like, out to get people? I mean, like, none of these hubs down here, none of these are powered hubs, you know, unless otherwise specified. But if you don't use a powered hub, you're asking for trouble, okay? Now, the only way you can safely use an unpowered hub, okay, is, number one device at a time, okay? That is one way. Number 2, you don't ever plug an external SSD drive in to a computer unless that SSD draws well less than 900 milliamps of power, okay? This is where problems can occur because when you start overdrawing, see, the device is rated at 1 amp, you have 900 milliamps, so you're 100 milliamps shy. Yes, the device still runs. Yes, it can still do things. It's going to get hot. I literally cooked a USB stick doing this stuff. It's like, whoopsie. So anyways, when you overdraw, right, the bus heats up inside the computer, right? And eventually it will pop. It might take, you know, maybe a couple of months, maybe a couple of weeks of doing this stuff. But eventually, I guarantee you, the bus is going to pop. And then you're going to be like, eh. And then you're going to see videos on YouTube, which we do see. Are hubs responsible for blowing the ports on our Mac? Duh. You're all using unpowered ports. Okay, or unpowered hubs. Of course, the hubs are blowing your computers. And you're trying to plug in too much junk at once because people look at pictures like this and they go, oh, look what I can plug into that. And all at once is what they assume. And this is what many of you assume is just because it shows you that you think you can do it. And you can't. Well, you can because you can do anything you want to do, but there's a very high price to pay. And I did some experimenting myself, trust me. Because I really don't care if I blow something up. It's not a big loss to me. It's all in the name of knowledge. And I have a hub that's actually a dongle style. And I started plugging crap in one thing at a time just to see how things were going. Now, with USB sticks, it was never a big problem because USB sticks don't draw squat anyway. So, no big deal there. Let's start plugging in something that really hauls some power. Then we started to see some problems happen. Okay? Oh, but the device is designed to plug that not into that hub, it ain't. Okay? So it's not getting power. You know? So anyway, yeah. You need to use powered hubs. Point blank. Alright? I mean, that's the way it goes. If you don't, it's your bad if you start plugging in too much junk and blowing stuff up. But you can see there's other ones. There's like this AGPTech or AGP Tech or AGP Tech, Hitachi. Now, some of these are really cool, and not everybody wants to use even the internal drive storage if it's there. I get it, but hey, man, without external hard drives, how do you back your stuff up? And it's nice to have them there anyway. I now have 3 hard drives online. One's completely naked, and the other 2 have info on them. So this actually should be arranged this way. But Hitachi has these. Hitachi's not powered either. It just takes the power from your computer, and people think you can plug all this junk in and run an internal drive. Nope, not safely. We got the Hagbis, right? It's got 2 ports at the back here. You would assume that one of those should be for powering the hub with, but as it turns out, it is not. Okay, and you cannot. It's not designed for that. So it's like, great. So we suck again on that one. So it looks like Qwiizlab, as far as this format goes, and what Amazon has available in this format, the only one that is recommendable is the Qwiizlab. You're not going to go wrong with it, okay? Now, but you do need an external power supply, okay? You do have to run that power externally, not the way Qwiizlab shows. So if you look up USB power adapter, now there are adapters on here, like these small little chintzy things, don't buy them. The power's been subdivided, so you're not getting 3 amps. You're getting like 1.5 amps each, maybe. You need at least 3 to 4 amps worth of power, okay? Now there's a charger up here. I think it was this one. Wow, that actually supplies up to 4.4 amps. But it tells you how it divides stuff too, eh? So you're going to get 1 amp to your phone, you're going to get 2.4 amps over to your iPad. So it's going to divide it, right? So we don't want this. This is garbage. Now, if you've got an iPad Air 4 or similar that has the USB brick, it has 3 amps of power. Even though it's 20 watts, it'll work. And I don't see any performance difference in speed testing here between either power brick, because the test I just did was actually with my 65 watt brick, which is third party. And I don't see any difference there in any kind of extra horsepower availability. Now there is this charger too. Now I don't know about using a fast charger, if it would be a good idea or not, because these are generally normal, everyday, it charges at its normal pace. It's not a fast charger with the Apple One or my 65 watt. So I'm not sure about using a fast charger, but this at least has 3.1 amps. So that's an extra 100 milliamps, which really isn't spit. Okay, 100 milliamps doesn't really count for much. But if you can find something around the 4 amp level, then you're probably better off that way. So we do have this one here as well. It does have 2 ports, PD and QC 3.0. You're going to have to really read to find out what it's actually offering you or not offering you. Okay. There is these things too. Charge station, 50 watt, 10 amp. So you're going to get, yeah, okay, so you're going to get 2.4 amps per plug, already pre-subdivided. 20 watt US, 20 watt power thing. So that's going to be, well, maybe you can actually use, yeah, you could use a fast charger. .0 plus. How many amps though? So this is where I'm trying to help you guys out. Okay, we're trying to look up a suitable charger here. But there are a lot of choices. Oh, Amazon Basics, 2.4 amp, not enough. Oh, here we go. Maybe this will work. This is actually the power adapter for the 2021 MacBook Pro. I have no idea what the amperage is on this thing. Does it even tell us? Oh, there you go. 5 amps. Perfect. How much is it? $46. Okay, I think I'm gonna invest in that, I think, and we'll try it out, because that's 5 amps. That should more than power everything plugged in all at once and then some. At least for all the stuff I have here. So there's an option, right? It's got the right plug-in on it on each end, and away you go. I probably lean more towards the 65 watt though, because I think 87 watts might be a little overkill. But it does have 5 amps, so the hub's only going to draw what it needs anyway. So having extra reserve amps is never a bad thing. Yeah. So anyways, that's where we're at with that. So find yourself a suitable charger to go along with that Qwiizlab, and you'll be rocking no problem, you know. But this is the only one I recommend. Now, given everything we know, okay, if you want it, buy it. I highly recommend this particular hub. Now, whether you are going to use this for a Mac Mini or your iMac or your MacBook Air, your MacBook Pro, doesn't matter. It works on all of them. It's not specific for the Mini, but it is best suited for the Mini as far as it's sexy, it's sleek, it stacks on there, it's to the same dimensions pretty much, plus or minus a little fudge room. It color matches our Silver Mini, okay? I really wish they would have had space gray in the M1, you know? But anyways, so great hub, definitely recommend it, and it's powered if you're after this design format. If you are after other design formats, you're on your own, okay? Other than the fact that I will say this, no matter what hub you buy, you make sure that it's a powered hub, okay? Make sure of that, because if it is not powered, you're going to have problems. Also, if you're going to use a straight USB only type hub, like my Vital one I have, you want to check that out on my channel. Now, that will subdivide amperage per socket, but it frees up amperage if you leave sockets turned off, because it has on and off switch. That only has a 2 amp power supply. So if you want to run a hard drive off of it, because you're out of port access for some reason, or whatever, okay, you plug it in, you flick on the switch, turn everything else off. Give all the amperage to that device in that port. Okay, so these ports don't subdivide until they're activated. So if you're just using one, make the rest of them off, and it supplies you the most maximum power capable to your device. So very ideal if you do have a 1.7 amp draw hard drive. You can safely do that if you turn off all the other ports on the Vital hub and just leave the one on that you need. Okay, that's how that one works. Now, we can always go and explain that mathematics in another video some other day. But in the meantime, I hope this video has helped you guys out a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more. And, well, see you later.